Welcome to another episode of Mic Drop. Today, I'm with the pleasure of Joseph Haj. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for asking. So let me ask you, Joseph, what got you into real estate? It's always interesting to hear the story of how a person becomes a real estate agent when they grow up.
Yeah, so I owned a liquor store at the time. We were at happy hour with a group of friends, and we were making fun of my friend's girlfriend at the time, who was a realtor, and we were all pretty drunk. And she said, "If it's that easy, why don't you do it?" So I got my phone out, signed up for the classes, and about a month later, I messaged her. I'm like, "Hey, I'm a realtor now. Like, what do I do?" And then, yeah, just went from there.
Gotcha. So what were you before you became a real estate agent?
I owned a liquor store, and before that, I had owned a full-service hotel. So I had always just worked for myself, and that's the only way to do it.
Well, it's always interesting when people think what a real estate agent does when they actually find out what it actually takes. So before you got into real estate, what did you actually think that a real estate agent did? Because, a lot of people watch $1 Million TV and they're showing $1 million properties. I mean, what did you think it would look like before you actually had the pleasure of stepping in?
Well, honestly, like my first 4 years, I dealt with a lot of buyers, did open houses and things like that, posting on social media and all that crap. But then I realized that listings are the way to go, and the easiest way to get them is to make dials. So I've been dialing for about 3 years, and my business has taken off. I missed becoming an elite agent 3 years ago, and then 3 years ago, and then last year I got it, and then this year I got it. So 2 years in a row I hit elite, and yeah, it's just it's a lot different when you actually take the time to actually prospect compared to just hanging out and waiting for business to come or doing open houses and chasing. It's a totally different ball game, like way different. Nobody understands. Like all my friends realize how much I work because they try to get a hold of me in the mornings and I'm not going to reply. It's time blocked for making calls. So, yeah, it's just 100% different than what you would ever think.
Yeah, well, I think the real estate, that word prospecting, it's a bad word. A lot of agents don't like to say it, let alone use it. So let me ask you, how did you get trained? Your first year, did you start to prospect, or did you realize that over time, if you didn't prospect, that you probably weren't going to make money? Because I think so many agents think that they can make a lot of money just doing open houses and just waiting and doing floor time. And the truth is, in this market, if you're not actually talking to people every single day, your business can't grow. So how did you get the mindset for prospecting? Is that something someone trained you on, or is that something that you actually figured out over time just by pain?
Had known that a builder was going under, and I started contacting him to be like, "Hey, are you going to sell properties?" He wouldn't reply, wouldn't do anything. I realized, then I went on the Minnesota court cases and found that he had court coming up. And so I hopped on the Zoom because it was during COVID, and all his assets got put to an advisory to kind of sell off. So I started calling them, leaving them messages, emailing them. And then like 3 months later, they shot me an email and were like, "Hey, we want you to list these 10 properties." I was like, I've never listed that many at once. And it ended up being eight listings in 2 weeks. And I had to contact the renters of the homes, do all this. And then, so I joined a Facebook group. Since then, I log into a Zoom call, and it's about 10 of us across the US. And we just call and call and call. So really, I just like learn from the others. Like we share everyone's listing packets, how to go through a listing presentation, pretty much everything we share with each other, and like help each other grow. Just joining that group, I just tried to like read about prospecting. Watching all of your free stuff is awesome. You're a machine, by the way. And
Appreciate that.
yeah, so really it was just getting in and doing it, and kind of like I would record my calls and then go back and listen to them and kind of see what could be done better. But yeah, the easiest way for somebody to get into it would honestly to hire a coach and get trained, because it totally changes your business.
Why do you think so many people don't hire a coach? And I think it's fascinating that people get into real estate to make a 6 and potentially a 7-figure income, and yet they don't want to put $1 into investing how they get better, into learning how to do it at a higher level. Why do you think so many people are so hesitant in resistance to getting help from people that are doing a much higher level of production than them. Because I think, honestly, that's probably the number one thing that stops agents from progressing, is that they base their activities on who they're around, not who they want to be around. I mean, if you look at the
Yeah.
average office, the average agent selling 2 or 3 houses, most people don't want that, but yet they're not willing to put themselves in an environment where they can be exposed to people doing at a higher level. Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I think it's everyone is cheap. They don't see the value. Honestly, I think that's what it is. I know I would have scaled way quicker if I did coaching, but now I kind of have a good grasp. It truly does help scale your business. Um, just because you've done it, you know what you're doing, you've done it for so long. That's just, it's easier to learn from somebody else's mistakes and quicker. So I don't know. I think more people should do it. And then there's the connotation of people hating on cold calling, and they think that's old school and it doesn't work and blah blah blah. But then I get agents who are like, "How are you getting so many listings?" I'm like, "Well, I made about 7,000 phone calls last month." And they're like, "Oh, you do that every month?" I'm like, "Yep." Like right now, when I had those 8 listings from that builder or from that advisory, I was like prepping everything, this and that. Like in this from this week till next week, I have 8 listings going live, and it's just another day. Like my wife's like, "Do you need any help?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "Everything's under control."
So obviously you've been in the business now, you said, for 8 years. Let me ask you something. What at this stage of your business do you find the hardest to maneuver in this market?
I've been thriving, so I I don't know. A lot of agents say, even the title company, they're like, "Geez, you got sent us another one." I'm like, "Yeah, like listings are the way to go when you're dealing with buyers." Right now in my market, if it's a 4-bedroom home, 3 bath with a 3-stall garage, like that house is flying. So you're going there competing, and yeah, like you're wasting time if you're with a buyer, because you're gonna have to show 10 houses, probably lose out on 4 of them and finally get one maybe at the 5th try. So dealing with listings, I don't feel that even this market has affected anything in my business. I've
So what's your
continually done 10 million a year for the last 3 years.
what's your goal this year for transactions?
My goal is 40.
Okay. And what
So
do you think, if you were to look at yourself and say, I want to get to 60 or 80, what do you think you would have to do different in the next, 7 months that you haven't done in the first 5, if you were to go on a pace to do 60 or 80?
I think I would have to call more,
Okay.
honestly. And I honestly, I'm very transactional. I've never called a past client ever. Um, I know there's business sitting there, and I'm still doing 30 to 40 a year. And I know if I started loving on my database that I know I'd probably get a little more business, but they still send me referrals. So I don't know. You
I
do a
think
good
most
job, they
agents,
remember.
most agents' database is really a data place. It's where they store the data, but they don't really do anything with it. Why do you
Yeah.
think you never developed the habit of your database? Because, it's funny in real estate. I mean, I was trained by Mike Ferry. So, I mean, my whole thing
Mm.
when I was coming up, not that he didn't say call your past clients, but, what I heard was get a deal, give it to your assistant, and go find another one. So, like, my mindset as I was coming up was very transactional. It's just how many transactions can I go out and find? And I never really learned to call the database until the last half of my career, when I started realizing that, like, if you can call people you don't know or call people who know, it's insane to call people that you don't know before you call people that you know. It's just like, I coach people, and initially they will cold call people versus calling their leads. It's the most fascinating thing. Everyone's obsessed with, I'm going to make 30 contacts. I'm going to make 50 contacts. But it's like, if you call 50 people that you don't know, and then you don't follow with the leads who actually you've already talked to, like, how does that make sense? Why do you think so many people have trouble with the relationship part of real estate, of understanding that it's smarter to call people you know versus people you don't know?
For me, it's just I actually created a list in my Mojo of my past clients and have it all scheduled, and I just need to actually start doing it. But a lot of people don't call their follow-up calls. Like every day on my calendar, I have at least 10 follow-up calls, and that's my number one priority for the day. If I have a crazy day, I'm going to block off an hour for at least my follow-up. Um, but yeah, I should call past clients, and I probably will start to, but Yeah.
So if you probably
Good
called your
stuff.
past clients, how many deals do you think that would add?
I think
10?
5 to 10.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
easily. Let me ask you something, because you haven't called them. Do you feel even more hesitant to call them the longer it goes? Because, there was a period I did it where, I'd hired someone to help me in that area, and calling back and be like, hi, this is your real estate agent, Mike Putnam. I had sold you a house 8 years ago. I was going through the database. I realized that I'd never connected with you again. And I just wanted to call and apologize. I hope you can forgive me. I want to remind you that I'm here. I know I haven't been here for the last 8 years, but I just want to remind you that if you need anything, I'm committing to be here. If you have a plumber, electrician, please let me know. Again, I apologize and I look forward to connecting soon. Like, those were some of the gut wrenching calls that ever made. I mean, expireds, for sale by owners, cold calls, like it didn't matter. I mean, door knocking, like nothing made me more nauseous and exhausted than going through my database and calling those people. Cause I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't care what people think, but for some reason, the past clients I had, I cared more about like what they thought. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
was interesting that it took me almost 18 months before I finally started getting a lot of those people to call me back. It
Oh,
was,
nice.
and that's the hard part, is a lot of people, you call the people and they don't respond back. But, the lady told me, if you keep calling them every 90 days, eventually the majority of them will come back. And that's what I found. And I've just never stopped. Let me ask you something. How hard would it be for you to do that?
Probably about the same feeling that you had, honestly. You just feel that. You're like, oh, I never contacted them again after the deal closed. Or usually I call them in 2 weeks just to make sure everything's good. But after that, really never call them. So I need to, just so I can get a few more deals, because
But,
I'm
it's
closing
funny.
on a new house here soon.
Some of the people calling back after 18 and 24 months, because, every 90 days, I would just leave them another message and they'd be like, hey, Mike, I got your message. I thought that was funny. You said that you hadn't called me in a couple of years. I guess now I haven't called you in a couple of years. Call me back. I need your help. And, he kind of played with that energy. But, it's interesting. I had an appointment maybe like 6 months ago. I like walked into a past client and they're like, before we get started, can we eat breakfast? So I'm like sitting down here and they have pancakes and I'm like eating. I got some strawberries, some whipped cream. And then they're like, but what do you think about the house? And I tell them the price and we're just talking. And then they're like, can we just sign the contract? And they're signing it. And then they gave me like some cheesecake and I'm just like walking out with this listing. I didn't do a presentation. I had breakfast and I got a cheesecake to go. And it's just like, why do you think people run from that?
Like even circle dialing, though, like 90% of the time you walk in, half the time they don't even want to do a presentation. They're like, hey, do you have the paperwork? Just because you've had so many follow-up calls and gotten to know them. Because I've had some that are 3 years old and they pretty much, yeah, you're my guy. So go there, do the walkthrough of the property and be like, yep, this is the price, and sign away. It's the greatest thing ever. You don't have no competition.
Correct. I mean, that's the funny thing about cold calling. I mean, I think we're May 6 today. I mean, I think we've taken 95 or 96 listings this year, and 43% of them have been off of cold calls, circle prospecting, around big cities. And it's just interesting how many people think that activity is dead. We spend, probably like $7,000 on like Google pay-per-click. And I think that only equates for 3 to 4% of our business. I mean, the majority of our business, I think it's 43% is cold calls, 17% is expireds, withdrawals. I think 11% is like for rent by owners, for sale by owners. Then it's like past clients at like 30, and then we have like a small portion which is off the marketing. What does your business look like in terms of the top 3 or 4 lead sources that you get?
I would say about 40-50%, and then sphere of influence is about 40%, and then 10% referrals.
Perfect. So let me ask you, what does your day look like? Because I think, one of the most important things for an agent, I've always said, is, try to master your morning schedule so that you can master the afternoon. What does a typical day look like for you?
Typically, I get back to the office at 8:30. I drop my son off at my mom's, so start dialing at 8:30, and I usually will dial till 11:30 or noon, and then noon to 1, I'll do emails and this and that. I don't eat during the day, so I just work through the lunch hour. I have bad pickup rate then, so not worth calling for me. And then 1 o'clock ish, usually hit the phones again, unless I have something to do has to do with a deal or something. So I typically at least try to get 3 to 4 hours a day in for calls.
Perfect. I guess for you, in terms of, your ability to handle objections, what are some of the objections that you tend to struggle with, or that, you find a little bit more difficult in this market?
Lately, we've been getting a lot that said they're going to sell it on their own. They're like, yeah, we're going to sell the house on our own. I'm like, all right, well, I can understand that. Like, money is money, but you do know that you'll probably sell for less. You're going to limit your buyer pool and this and that. They don't want to hear it usually. They have it in their head. So I'm like, hey, what's your email? I'm going to send you my for sale by owner toolkit. So I have a packet I made. And my pre-listing packet is probably half the size as my for sale by owner toolkit. It's made to overwhelm them. So if they won't give me their email, I usually throw it in an envelope and ship it off in the postal service to them, because chances are they're not going to be able to sell, and I provided value. And then hopefully when they realize that, they'll go with me. But I'll still follow up with them, ask them how just same thing as calling it FSBO.
Do you call for sale by owners every single day?
We don't have many for sale by owners. Same with expireds. Like, we don't have many expireds, and I've taken, I think, 3 this year.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't taken a FSBO yet. I've been kind of slacking calling those, but I've just been circle dialing pretty much mainly. That's probably like 95% of my calls is circle dialing.
Gotcha. How well are you be able to handle the urgency factor? Because a lot of people forget that we really don't sell houses, but the number one thing we sell is urgency. I mean, obviously, with everything going on in the world, do you find people now wanting to wait more than ever?
Yeah, a lot of people, because of interest rates. And well, a lot of them have the golden handcuffs. They have a 3% rate. And I was like, yeah, if it doesn't make sense, if you don't need to move, I wouldn't. But I didn't need to move, but a house on the golf course I found, and I'm doubling my interest rate. Like, it is what it is. So that's something I feel that you really can't. I think that's more of a condition that you can't change in people's mindset. If the interest rate thing is really on their mind, if they really don't have true motivation to move, like they had another kid, yeah, then interest rates, whatever. But
well, I think it's funny now when you have people that, they look at the interest rates, because, before the war, the rates were like 5.75. And now they're at like 6.3, and they're like, I'm going to wait for the rates to come down. And it's kind of funny, because if you think about it, if you're buying like a $500,000 house, the difference between a 6.3 and like a 5.5 is like less than $4,000 a year in terms of total savings. But it's just funny when you bring it back to them, and it's like, well, let me ask you something. I mean, if you wait for the interest rates to come down and all the buyers like you flood the market, do you think the prices are going to go down or probably go up? They're going to go up. And the question is, do you see houses in a good market typically go up more than $4,000? And in all cases, the answer is yes. I think so many times now with people, we're allowing people to focus so much on the rate and not understand like the total package. A lot of times with the rate, it's like you focus more on the rate or more on the payment. Because people don't understand, at the end of the day, the rate has no variance, it's the payment. The goal of buying any house is really 2 things. Number one is you want to get the lowest price. And we have to think, is the lowest price now when there's less buyers in the marketplace, or is the lowest price in the future when all the buyers come back in? The lowest price is now. And then to get the lowest payment, you obviously also need to get the lowest rate, which we know that in the future, when the war ends, the rates come down. And if you look at what Trump's new person coming in with the Fed is planning, he's planning on dropping rates as well. So I think for a lot of buyers, if they can get past temporary paying now, by buying now, they're getting the lowest house price, and then they're going to be able to refinance to the lowest rate, which obviously is going to get them the lowest payment. How well are you at being able to help them through that thought process? Because I think a lot of people, we give up so easily, either with like the interest rate, or we give up on their time and not dig in. And you'd be surprised, by asking questions and getting people to look from a different view, how much more you can convert.
Yeah. What you just said there was spot on. Like, that's a great way to like guide the conversation, because that totally makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to use that probably exact script you used there. So just so you know.
Well, I just think, it's interesting because, I was talking to someone yesterday that I set up an appointment with, and they're like, I'm going to wait for the value of my house to go up. And I'm like, not a problem, but you are going to buy another house. They're like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, let me ask you, if the value of your house goes up 5, 6, 7, 10%, what's going to happen to the value of the house you're going to buy? Isn't that also going to go up 5, 6, 7, 8, 10%? So let me ask you, if you make 10% and then you have to give it all away, how much money did you make by waiting? He's like, well, I didn't make anything. Okay. But if you were able to buy something now, instead of overpaying 10% in a year, what do you have 10% equity? I don't know about you, but if you have a choice in the next year to give another seller 10% or you have the ability to keep it, what would be your preference? Well, to keep
Yeah.
it. And it's just
Yeah.
funny, just that little mind shift of being able to show them something that they can't see. Because so many people, they're focused on just one way. And I think as agents, our job is to really take our eyes and like put it over to them and kind of let them see a perspective that maybe they haven't seen before, if that makes sense.
100%.
So let me ask you something. When you look right now at growing your business, outside of calling your past clients, what do you think would be the biggest challenge of getting to 60 or 80?
I'll probably have to get an assistant because I usually only work Monday through Thursday. Fridays I spend with my son. So between uploading everything, doing everything, I do everything. So
Wow.
everyone just makes fun of me. They're like, everyone in the Zoom room pretty much has an assistant. And I'm the only one who doesn't. And I usually, like the one year I did 37. I think last year I did 35. This year I should be probably at least 40.
What do you
And
think it stops
I'm
you
a
from,
one-man show.
what do you think it stops you from either hiring an assistant or getting like a transaction coordinator to kind of free you up to make more calls?
I think just the time to train them.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like
funny,
I need to make
we're going to sell probably 250, 300 houses this year. And it's funny that, I mean, we actually in the last couple of months have actually gone to a full transaction coordinator company. So like we have one
wow.
in-house person, we have a runner, and then we literally give all the files out. And, I've always been resistant to it, but that was one of the things that as having when you sell a lot, is having to always retrain the assistants over and over and over. It's like when one leaves, it's like you have to bring up the next one and the next one. We were at one point, we had 3 and it was just like everyone was kind of flip-flopping. It's like every time you have to retrain someone, it causes your attention to kind of go to that area to kind of help them out. So it's amazing to literally send it off and then to have another company actually do it and not really have to worry about it. I mean, this lady is probably better than any admin I've ever had in my life. I mean, it's like 9:00. Sometimes I wonder if the person's like an AI bot, like 9:50 sending me an email, 5:45, and it's just like, as agents, I think one of the things we have to understand is how do we get back our time some, because you have to realize 80% of a day should be either prospecting, lead follow-up, going on appointment, and negotiating an offer. I think the problem for a lot of agents that want to grow their business is if you don't have any offers to present, you don't have any appointments to go on, what does that mean you should do for the second half of the day?
Make calls.
Yeah, that's the
100%.
thing. Most people, if they made 3 hours of calls in the morning between, 8 to 11 or 8 to 12, how many people do you know that actually get back in the afternoon and do it with the same level of intent in the afternoon as they did it in the morning?
Not many.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, this is all we have. This is all I had for the day. I'm like, if I have free time, I'm gonna make calls because all it takes is one to get a new lead, and I just try to get one lead a day, honestly, and just build that up and follow up. And every time I send a letter, and every follow up call, I do a handwritten letter, and every time I throw a magnetic business card in, and you go to an appointment, your card's on the fridge, you're like, yeah, this is getting signed. It's
So
awesome.
how often are you able to get yourself back on the phone in the afternoon on the days that for whatever reason you don't have an appointment?
Usually at least 2 days a week. I'm calling in the afternoon. And then now golf started, so Thursday afternoons I'll be golfing. But yeah, so Mondays are my day where I usually dial the most. I usually start on Mondays at 8:00. I go till noon, and then usually 1:00 till about 4. Still making calls, and then I try not to schedule anything on Mondays. Like Monday's my day of really honing in. But if I took that intent through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would level up my business for sure.
Is
It's
that something
just
that you want to do? Or I think, one of the biggest things that I see stop a lot of agents from really going all in is they focus a lot on work-life balance. You know what I mean? And it's like, the only problem that I've ever had with work-life balance is that if you have work-life balance, you always have to work to have balance. At some point, if you want to be unbalanced, just means you don't want to work. At some point, you have to overwork to make up for that time. And that's one of the things that with the people that I coach, I'd really try to let them see is that, if you spend 5 hours a day and you do that for 5 years and you build your business, in 5 years, you would never have to make a cold call because your database would be big enough that you can make $400,000 or $500,000 off of that. You probably could call for, 1 to 2 hours a day, just your database, and you'd make the same, if not more money than you make now. But I think so many agents are caught in that trap with, I need to have balance now, not understanding that if you have balance now, in the future, you're going to have unbalance because it's like, as you get older and older and older, most people don't want to put in the 7,000 calls, a weekend. So how do you
Yeah.
balance growing your business and knowing what you're capable of doing and understanding that you also want some kind of a balance now?
Oh, I understand putting the time in and everything. So usually like fall, like our winters suck here in North Dakota. So through the winter, I'm making a ton of calls because there's nothing else to do. But come summer, I'm gonna go golf in the afternoon, and um, usually at least one day a week during the week, and then maybe on the weekend. But um, yeah, the more time you put in, the better off you'll be, and I know that, and I try to do that as much as I can, and I try to be freed up in the evenings just to spend time with my wife and kid, and it ends up working out. I need to make a list of things I need to do. And when I make a list, I can actually pound through those items super quick and then get back to dialing. It's when I'm dialing and working on something that I realize nothing is being done productively.
No, 100.
So I've been doing that for about a month, like religiously having a list, and I've just had a lot more time to actually make calls.
So what percentage of your business is sellers versus buyers?
About 90% sellers.
Okay, 90%. And in your
Yeah.
market, how good are you in terms of getting sellers to reduce the price after you've taken it potentially higher? Because obviously as agents, sometimes, we take it within range. What kind of communication do you do to try to get sellers to reduce? Because I think across the country from, people calling me and DMing me, I think a lot of agents right now are taking listings at prices that are probably higher than they should be. And they don't
Yeah.
have any kind of plan in place to get the people down. They're waiting 30 days, and in 30 days, a lot has changed in the market right now with more houses. So how do you work your clients from listing at a higher price to getting them down to a price that will cause it to sell, which is probably one of the biggest challenges agents are having now?
I like at the beginning of the listing appointment, I tell them I'm the one that's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. If they still will only sign at the higher price, I'll pretty much say within 2 weeks we'll know how bad this is, and chances are we'll be down to where I suggested. But obviously, we'll try to maximize your sale price. So here we go. Every week I'll give an update. How many views, showings. Every time there's a showing, I call to get feedback. Showing time, no one ever fills that out. So I always call the agents just to get feedback to see what they're thinking. And I relay everything to the client. So I'm like, yeah, everyone, or say we didn't get any showings. We're overpriced. We need a drop. We had a discussion about this during the listing appointment. There's really not many people who would argue after like a set expectation is set. So if you take a high listing, have the expectation that price drops are going to have to happen, but you'll have to provide data to show why we need a price drop right now, and they drop right away.
Right. I think one of the problems that a lot of agents have, especially newer ones, is disappointment, either not getting the listing not selling, or feeling like your client is upset at you. How do you deal with that mentally, of just disappointment with getting listings that you thought you should get, or clients either firing you or not doing what it takes to sell? How do you deal with that? Because I think when you're on 100% commission, a lot of agents, they tack into the commission. And then when it doesn't happen, there's a level of disappointment. How have you dealt with that, or how do you work through that? Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges for agents in scaling is that, oh my God, well, if I have more houses, I won't be able to handle it all.
Really, it's just, I don't know, you sell enough houses, everything isn't going to work out. So I'm just like, yeah, on to the next one. Honestly, if somebody doesn't want to work with me after a listing appointment, yeah, that's fine.
Have you always had that
Then I'll
mindset, or is that something that you've calloused over the years? Because I think a lot of
probably in the last 3 years I figured that out, just since I became more of a seller's agent. not everyone's going to work with you, but this year I'm 10 for 11 on appointments. So
What do you think
just from
that you do well
calls.
at the appointments that allows you to get that kind of ratio? Would you say it's the quality of the client? Is it the pre-qualifying? Is it the presentation? Or is it a little bit of everything?
I like to pre-qualify, and I guess in the pre-qualification, I'll just even tell them that I just want to be straight with you. I'm going to tell you how it is. If that's not something that you like, just let me know. But I'm going to be honest with you throughout this whole process. Then honestly, just showing comps. A lot of people will be like, "Yeah, this is the comp." I'll have my laptop out. I'll have every comp open so we can scroll through the photos, have them see it, and then I'll be like, "Okay, now what do you think your house is worth?" It really gets in their minds. They're like, "Oh, I thought it was worth way more." And even my house, I just listed it last Thursday. I was like, I know it's a $700,000 house, which is high in my market. I was like, I'm going to price it at 689, and because I always tell people we should price at market or 5% below, and we'll do good. Well, I had multiple offers, I had the leverage, and it went over asking. If I
Yeah.
would have priced at 7, chances are I maybe would have got 690. So, um, just showing like strategies, price bracketing, things like that through the appointment. A lot of people don't show that. Even like reverse prospecting on MLS. They're like, yeah, I do this. I share everything with the brokerage, all the agents. Real is the largest brokerage in North Dakota now, so everyone gets this info prior to it even going live. They like, I send an email, I have this listing coming. Let me know if you want to check it out when it goes live. So I don't know, just providing as much value as you can to the clients. They kind of realize that, because I don't think anyone takes the time to actually practice their listing presentation or have done any training in that.
Mhm.
And actually having a good conversation, providing the value, having clear expectations, I think that goes a long ways into being able to get most of them signed.
Yeah. I think, one of the things for a lot of agents in terms of pre-qualifying is a lot of people don't understand that at a high level, you really need 6 things. You need to know why they want to move, when they want to move, where they want to move. You have to know what they want for the property, because if someone wants a million and it's worth 800, you probably would want to know that upfront. You need to
Yeah.
know what they owe on the property, because again, how much money they make is at the end of the day is going to be what matters. And then obviously, I think the question that most people leave out is, if what I say makes sense, you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, would you be open to letting me get started when we meet? I think that's just because people don't
Mm-hmm.
want to give the answer. How often do you ask something like that at the end, where you ask them, if we meet, would you be open to letting me get started, to get a feel of, when you go out, if they're actually mentally prepared to sign? Because even if they say no, before you go out, you would want to know why, because you could handle that at the
Yeah.
appointment. How often do you ask that last qualifying question? Because I think that's one of the big missing questions that a lot of agents miss out on. And it causes them to go on a lot of appointments that they shouldn't go on. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sign with you because my mom is an agent and I'm going to list with her. Even though they've answered all of the pre-qualified questions, it's finally at the end, they'll say that to you.
Yeah. So I always ask something like that during the pre-qual. Same with getting the um, amount they owe, because I'll have a low, medium, and high estimate on the price, and I'll have 3 net sheets, just everything ready. Most agents don't do that. So they're like, here you go. Like, it's not a rule to provide a net sheet for North Dakota sales. It's the dumbest thing ever. Minnesota, you have to have them sign it off. So
Right.
that's good. But most agents don't even take the time to do that. And for them to even be a lead, I already have their when, where, and why. So pretty much have all the info. My pre-qual is pretty much just to see if this is going to be a waste of time. Then I'm just not going to go on the appointment. It's not worth the
Gotcha.
time.
With you being a heavy prospector, I know one of the problems across the country is spam. What are you doing now to try to deal with how fast on Mojo the numbers go spam?
Oh God, they were going so bad. Like, oh my God. I test them every week now. I always buy track phones, get new numbers with that. But now I do the call rotation on there, and it's done a lot better. I think I have it set to like 100 calls a week or something per line, and then it'll just switch line. And that's really helped a lot, because last week when I checked, I didn't have any in spam.
Oh, wow.
But about 2 months ago when I checked one time, it was like 8 numbers.
So as an individual, how many numbers do you typically like to have in your rotation?
30 to 40.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest problems that agents have, is they're not willing to invest in phone numbers. I think the majority of people that I see doing Mojo, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. And if you have 5, if you're making a volume of calls, all 5 are going spam probably that week. I think that's one of the things for agents that prospect a lot, is understanding that one of the biggest areas that you can invest in is making sure that you have good, clean numbers. Because if you don't, on Mojo, with the amount of spam, people don't pick up their phone. You literally will go from 100% to 30% like that. When did you start
100%.
making that switch to adding in excessive numbers? Because again, I don't know many people.
Pretty much right away, because everyone in the Zoom room always had tons of numbers. So right away, I got about 20 numbers, and then I've just realized now that I need about 30 to 40 at all times, and it'll rotate enough where like they're not hitting spam. So that's nice, because this one week I was like, oh my God, this pickup rate is unbelievable. Like, this is horrible. So I went and tested all my numbers. I'm like, holy crap. I was like, everyone, you need to do this now. Everyone did it, and they were just all shocked, because whitelisting used to work like really well, and now it doesn't.
Correct. That's why they got rid of it. I think, before they switched, we had looked one week and we had 250 phone numbers. And I think out of that, 215 of them were spam.
Holy cow.
Because it's just, we make lots of calls. You work for me, we're calling from, 8 to 12 break. And then we're there from 2 to 6. So most of the agents that work for me are making anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of calls. So when you go through that volume of calls, if you don't have numbers, it definitely is something that slows your business down. So let me ask you, how big of a business do you want to grow over the next 5 years? Are you at a place where you feel like you're comfortable and you're going to kind of level off and just kind of stay here? Or in the next 5 years, would you like to grow your business?
I'm going to grow for sure. The more money I can make, the better life my kid will have. And I'm going to try to get to $500,000 GCI. Okay.
I guess for you, do you see yourself bringing people on aside of you? Do you see yourself always being more or less a one-man show? What would growing do? Is it growing people around you so that you can focus on the part that you enjoy, or is it just trying to do everything yourself?
I'm contemplating doing like a micro team, like hiring a full-time assistant to start, like a showing assistant, and going that route, and then slowly transition to them into a realtor, and then replacing them with another assistant. I think that's the way I would go if I do end up doing that, but I'm pretty content just being on my own. I've owned many businesses. I had 90 plus employees when I had my hotel. I don't want to waste all my time making sure they're actually doing something. Because for people to actually make cold calls, a lot of people won't do it. They just won't. We're going to make TikToks or whatever. It's stupid. Like, oh yeah, you're going to get buyer leads and go waste more time. So
Yeah,
I don't know, if I could get somebody interested that wanted to spend the time to make calls, I would for sure just get them on board and start going.
Yeah, I think the people that I coach, and I coach a lot of people in terms of a micro team, the first thing that we do is we have them get a transaction coordinator, like a virtual one that they could send their stuff to. The second hire would be getting a buyer's agent that would free them up. But the caveat to that buyer agent is that when they're not showing, they're circle prospecting around listings, because, what that does is that's helping that agent learn how to be a better salesman, is generating leads for themselves, and is obviously generating leads for you. And it's a way for them to grow their business, because, the problem with having a buyer agent, if they just sit at home and don't do anything, is that you feel somewhat responsible to feed them. So it's like, if you don't have enough buyers, you feel like, why even have one? But if you have someone that's prospecting alongside you and you can send the buyers to them, it's like they're helping you grow your own business. And at the same time, you're exponentially helping them do that. And then the fourth hire would be bringing in an ISA that will make calls around you. We typically would do something, virtual, where you could have a company for, in the Philippines for $5 or $6 an hour that would make 40 hours of calls per week. And it's just an easy way to scale a micro team, where instead of you making a lot of outbound calls, if you have buyer agents and ISAs making calls, you're shift is that you start following up more on lead follow-up than actually making the outbound calls. So, I mean, how good are you at following up on your leads now? Which is, in my opinion,
Very good.
95% of everyone's business, if not more, comes from lead follow-up. And again, most people focus so much on the first call.
Yeah, you trained Larry. I pretty much listen to everything he says, and follow-up's the number one thing. So follow-up's always number one thing on my plate. If I have a day where something comes up and I actually miss it, I'm gonna get today's follow-up done tomorrow for sure, and tomorrow's follow-up done. Those are already leads. You already know their when, where, and why. That's the most important call to make. Kind of like calling your past clients, I
So
guess.
let me ask you something, because I think this is one of the biggest problems that a lot of agents I see have. If you have 15 people in your Mojo folder and it says call them today, if you call them and they don't answer, what do you do with those
I put
people?
them in an A list, and then I call them every day 2 times till they answer from all different phone numbers.
Because that's what I told Larry, at the early stages. Like, if you call someone that you don't answer, you put it into a bucket, and then you just call that bucket 2 to 3 times a day from different
Yep.
phone numbers, and you call them at different times. Because, I see so many people that will do lead follow-up between 10 and 11. Is it possible that some of your leads will never pick up the phone again between 10 and 11?
Yep. Yep. So I called my A list today at about 8:45. I'll call it probably around 2 o'clock today again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think, for a lot of people that are having trouble getting a hold of leads, Saturday morning from like 8:30 to 10 is a really good time to get a hold of people. And I think the best time to get a hold of leads is Sunday, 6 to 8. I typically do that twice a month, because you get a hold of people 6 to 8 on Sunday that you just never get a hold of during the week. So let me ask you, as we close out, if there was a new agent that was getting in the business, or if there was an agent that was struggling, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give them that you wish that someone had given you your first day?
never buy a lead. Learn how to create your own, essentially. Put in your work and master your craft. You do those 3 things, you'll get business. My first year prospecting didn't get that much business, but I learned a lot. And I know if I had a coach or something, it would have been way quicker, but it's just every year is getting a little better. You're getting better at calls, you're getting better at knowing what a lead is, you're better at follow up.
How did you deal with call
Pretty much.
reluctance? Did you have that at the beginning, or it's different parts of your career?
Yeah, it was kind of weird at the beginning, and then I realized, like, what's the worst they're gonna do? Like, swear at you? Just hang up, keep going. There's a book called Go for No, and I pretty much just go for no. If they say yes, I got a lead. Hell yeah.
It's funny. I've had a lot of people that work for me. You brought Larry up. Larry was one of the few people that, he was in a corporate background with restaurants. So it's like, he was used to firing people. So he would just get on the phone, and there was zero reluctance for him. I used to call him a browbeater, because he would literally just be beating people up over the phone. And not everybody has that personality. That was a gift that, I think his career prior was able to come in, and just being able to be very direct with people. I think so many people have trouble just talking to people when they start yelling and screaming, and understanding that it's just a call. When you have people that yell and scream, like, how do you deal with that? Or how are you able to just move on to the next call? Because it's funny, 100 people, 92 people say nothing to you. 8 people yell at you. And at the end of the day, most agents focus on the 8 and not the 92. Why?
I don't know. They were taking it personal. Like, I just realized that you are going to get pricks. Like, up here, not bad. Like, North Dakota, Minnesota, it's pretty good. I had a friend who used to call in Philly. My God. I have a friend who calls in New York. Those people are assholes. But, like, here, they're not that bad. And if somebody's a prick, you just say, calm down or relax and just hang up and go to the next call. It's nothing personal. Like, they don't know you, you don't know them. Like,
Yeah.
why are you going to let that ruin your day?
Yeah. I think call reluctance is probably one of the critical parts that stops most agents from ever having a big level of business. Because, I guess when you were weathering the storm your first year, how were you able to get by it without getting results? Because I think so many people try something, and if they don't get an instant gratification and get results right away, they just stop.
I had a few that ended up listing like pretty quick, like my first year, and then I realized that this is just a pure follow-up game. That's why calling your scheduled calls every day is the number one most important thing, I think. So I
100%.
just realized the more I make for calls, the more leads I can create, and then the more follow-up calls I can get, because it's not going to be a one call and they're going to list. It might take 2 or 3 years. I had one that they were, oh, we're renting. I'm like, well, have you ever thought of buying a home? Oh, we'd love to. That was one of my first leads, and last year I sold them a house, and it took 2.5 years.
How
It
about
was
that?
just follow up. One year we started looking at houses, then they had like family issue, so we stopped, and then just kept following up. And yeah, they were like, "Yeah, we're ready now." Ended up getting them. That was one of the best closings I had. It was just they were unbelievably happy, first time home buyers that were in their like 50s or 40s, and it was a great feeling.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget, one of the best ways to get a relationship with people that you cold call is by long-term follow-up. If you keep following up with them over and over and over again, you really separate yourself from the people that do it sporadically.
Well, I do a weekly email too, and usually, like this week, I talked about the Fed, and then every week I also put like what I've been doing, like day to day. So people follow that and reply to that. I do giveaways and things like that. So all my past clients get that. Any new lead that I get their emails, I throw that in there too. So it helps dramatically, just seeing that, oh, he's actually busy and productive, actually providing information. I'll do restaurant reviews here and there and things like that. So just that weekly email helps too.
100%. Well, as we wrap it up, if someone had any questions, wanted to contact you, or more importantly, had a referral for you, how do they get a hold of you?
Phone number is 218-688-0802. Otherwise, at Joseph Hodge on Instagram. Feel free to reach out whenever, and appreciate being on this podcast.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much, Joseph.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. Bye-bye.